For the past 70 years, this familiar site in Richmond, Indiana and Hamilton, Ohio, ensured that local business owners had the means to deliver their message to potential customers. Porter Advertising, the region's premier outdoor advertising company, began in 1945 after founder Carol Porter joined with co-workers to purchase Packer Outdoor.
Well, he was in the advertising business in several places, including Cleveland and Toledo, and he got sent to Richmond to run the Packer plant. And then Mr. Packer wanted to get rid of as far as he was concerned, he didn't want to have it anymore. So he offered it to several people as all employees, as partners.
Growing up, Porter's daughter, Joanne Peterson, spent summers working for her dad while he handled the sales duties across the two-state region. After reaching adulthood, Peterson left Porter and got married, but before long, she returned, bringing with her a husband and Porter's newest employee.
After I graduated, Russ was in the Marine Corps, and we lived in California for 2 years. And when he got out, we came back to Richmond, and we stayed with my folks. And he looked a few places for a job, and then my dad offered him a job.
Russ Peterson worked for Carol Porter until the founder died in May 1980. During the course of Peterson's career, Porter Advertising grew, as did his family, with the birth of his 4 children. As a man with a strong work ethic and a deep love for his kids, Peterson's evenings were often spent tending to their needs as well as to those of the business.
I would go with them in the evenings to check the lights. That was a regular thing. We do that probably once every 2 to 3 weeks.
Peterson's daughter, Beth Rankin, said her father's work schedule also kept him away from home on weekends, but she said her mother made sure that they visited him on the job.
We'd always do that. Anytime we were in town, we'd drive up to the window, and they didn't have air conditioning back then, so the window would usually be up in the summer and fall and the spring, and we'd always say hello.
In addition to hiring his son-in-law before his death, Carol Porter also added salesman Ken Harlan to the Porter staff in 1956 and remained with the company for 44 years.
I just really enjoyed it. And you met so many different kind of people. And I met Al McGuire, the basketball coach at Marquette in Chicago, in an elevator. I met Ted Turner in St. Louis when he was a young man, because he started in outdoor advertising. His father owned a poster plant. And it was just, I met Wendell Wilkie's son that was president of a bank in Rushville, Philip Wilkie. And it was just, you were doing something different every day.
Harlan said many changes occurred in the outdoor advertising industry during his time with Porter, including a shift in the way the signs were manufactured and in the types of media that they considered their competition.
Our biggest competition sometimes was just the plain old wind. In other words, it would blow a panel down, and when I went to work, a lot of the panels were made out of redwood. And then we started to get into steel.
Harlan and Peterson shared the sales duties at Porter until the time of Carol Porter's death. At that point, Russ Peterson took over as company president, keeping the business in the family, and during his tenure, he put Porter on the national map by serving on the board of directors of the Outdoor Advertising Association of America, as well as on the state boards in Ohio and Indiana. Though all employees at Porter worked hard, they enjoyed their free time as well, spending summer vacations as a family at the various state conventions.
The Ohio meetings were always fun because they were at state parks, and they were longer. And we always took the kids to those.
Kids, we'd swim and just have fun, and in the evenings they'd have parties and dinners, and the adults would schmooze and the kids would just kind of run around and have fun. You know, you're in this resort, and it was always a lot of fun.
For the next several years, the company continued to grow in its success, and in 1990, Peterson's third child, Richard, returned home from California where he worked as an engineer. With his decision to take a job as one of the company's salesmen came 12 years of learning all aspects of the family business in hopes of taking over when his father retired. Richard Peterson successfully managed both the Ohio and Indiana territories until October 2002, when life changed dramatically for his family and his business. While on vacation that year, Russ Peterson passed away unexpectedly, forcing Richard to take the helm of Porter Advertising much earlier than anticipated.
When I heard that he died, it brought tears to my eyes. I was home and I was retired. And Beth, which is Richard's sister, called us and told us that he had passed away.
It was a rough couple of months just making the adjustment, more just emotionally making that adjustment, but I think one of the things that I did probably within the first day was just change desk. I don't know, for me it was more of a sentimental thing to go from salespeople's desk in the office to assuming that role. You have to understand the environment of the office. It's more of a large room with an open office atmosphere. And for me, that seat just represented the figurehead. That's where I remember my grandfather sitting in that seat, and my father assumed that seat. And so for me, it was more of a sentimental thing that I took on.
Yes, he stepped up and it's done a great job. I remember when he came and started here, and he was the Ohio sales manager. And he did that for a long time. And then he came in and started working here and learning Dad's job, and then took over when my dad passed away.
With the new leader in place and the dramatic changes that were occurring in the outdoor advertising industry, Porter Advertising entered a phase of rapid growth unlike any the company had ever seen.
There has been a lot of consolidation in the industry over the last 20 years. Like us, there's been a lot of family business that have passed from generation, whether that's 2 generations or 3 generations. Obviously, the farther down you go, the more difficult it is to have family members have an interest as well as the skill sets to do those things. And as a result, the larger companies have made a lot of acquisitions. So I serve on both the Indiana board and the Ohio Outdoor Advertising Association board, but those decisions were basically done to fill my father's seat. So when he passed away in '02, then I stepped up and joined all 3 of those boards, the Association Indiana, the Association in Ohio, as well as the National Association. From a national association, they have a goal of allowing smaller companies to be on the board in order to have some say in the direction of which they go. And the state associations are comprised of those companies that operate in the state, where in Indiana, 20 years ago, there might have been 8 or 10 companies. Now there's probably 3 companies or 4 companies that are members. In Ohio, very similar. There were probably 10 to 12 independent companies, of which now there's probably only 4 or 5 independent companies.
In an effort to lower the company's carbon footprint, Peterson joined other outdoor companies in switching to the use of polyethylene vinyl posters versus paper.
They don't flag. They don't come off as often as paper.
Bill Poster James Black has worked for Porter since 1995 and has been instrumental in the paper to PE conversion, as well as working on installing new lights to make Porter more energy efficient. Likewise, in keeping pace with the national sales trends in the outdoor advertising industry, Richard Peterson decided to add a new marketing division at Porter in 2013 so customers could reach an increasingly mobile audience.
The Outdoor Advertising Association of America, as you mentioned, they are pushing for providers to supply more inventory and more different types of media that could fit in the outdoor in terms of not in home, meaning out of home as in billboards, out of home as in kiosks, out of home as in mobile, the way the mobile interacts with the different advertising and such. And so they're pushing for providers to provide more of those services as well. And so the way that we have taken the first initiatives to do that is engaging in some different mobile apps, you should say, that would interact with the billboard advertising if it was a current client. In other ways, we also are pushing for advertisers to interact with their consumers mobilely through different touch points such as Q&R codes or near-field communications, some different things like that.
Marketing specialist Jessica Clark continues to grow her division, helping smaller clients and nonprofits with website development and social media training. In spite of the many changes that have occurred at Porter Advertising since it all began in 1945, one thing has not changed. The company continues to provide excellent service to clients.
Porter Advertising and Richard's Pizza have been partnering for our advertising needs at Richard's Pizza for quite a few years. My dad had originally met the owner, Richard, the current owner's father, and they came up with some advertising creative ideas, and this was back in the 1960s. When I came back to work in 1987, I also began working with Porter Advertising. It's very helpful that Porter Advertising is a family-owned company, because as a family-owned company, you get excellent service from the owner to the sales reps. They go the extra mile to take care of all your advertising needs.
In addition to valuing clients, Richard Peterson also values his employees, making Porter Advertising more than a successful company. Porter Advertising is, simply put, a great place to work.
The people are good. It's not a push job. You're not getting killed every day. You're not getting chased around by bosses like you would be in a factory. I mean, it's pretty laid back. You get your job done, nobody says anything to you.
I think it's more being by myself, being outside.
No boss.
No boss, down to earth. Yeah.
Do you think that Richard and the staff here are they easy to work for?
Yeah.
It's actually been great. Coming into it, not having as much sales experience as some of the other sales associates have, it was kind of, I can't say I was scared, but I was intimidated a little bit. But that said, everything worked out pretty well for the first year. Great training from some of the sales staff as well as the president of the company, and I had my goals set high. Didn't get there, but I think I did a pretty good job for the first year.
It has a lot of security to it. A lot of places when the recession hit, there was layoffs, and I didn't have to worry about that. We were stable enough that it slowed our business down, but a lot of people went out of business during that time, and Porter's had enough reputation that it kept its clients and was able to make some changes and cuts in budget or whatever, but there was no risk of feeling like people were going to get laid off because of it.
So with 70 years in the history books, Porter Advertising continues to grow and adapt to the changing environment of the outdoor advertising industry and the needs of its staff. With its solid reputation and history intact, the future at Porter Advertising is nothing but bright.
Continue to be thought of as a premier company, so that when people think of advertising services within the 7 or 8 counties that we covered, that we're the first people that they think of.